Clerk will take the roll. We've got to talk into our microphones, or James was on the telephone, and he won't be able to hear you unless we talk into the microphone.
Here.
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 Okay, the minutes have previously been distributed from our last meeting of council. Is there any objections, changes, or additions? May I have a motion?
Second.
Yes.
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 The minutes having been approved, we will now move to the Finance Committee report.
Yeah, Mayor, we had another good month. We'll keep waiting for the hammer to fall. January had revenues of 1.3 million, which is 26,000 more than 2020. Receipts over expenditures for the month, 116,000. So again, a good start to the year. We're still waiting for the full impact of COVID to hit. Each month, it looks like it's going to be less and less, and we keep holding our breath, and we'll just see where it goes. I'm just don't know where it's going to go, but hopefully this continues. Regarding recreation, we've had a lot of positive feedbacks on a couple of projects. One is full display on Glendale Milford Road, the Winter Wonderland. Thanks to the rec department for everything they did, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback, and I think it looks great, and I think everybody shares that thought. Also,
my wife and I went down to look at it, and we pulled into the parking lot, and And there was a number of cars in the parking lot out looking, taking pictures of the display. Just
Even
had-
this morning, it was light out, and even this morning, the lights were on, but with all the snow, when I was going into the office,
Probably looked
it looked good. It really did.
Okay,
Also, this is something that kind of went under the radar a little bit, but Operation Sunshine Boxes, the rec trying to reach out to a lot of the seniors. They had 75 fun-filled boxes that they delivered to the residents, and again, a lot of positive feedback, and it's just the rec department's way of staying connected with a lot of the residents who haven't been able to get out as much. Gorman Farm, just notice that the farm remains open to the public. Anybody who wants to visit, masks are required inside or within 6 feet of anybody out on the farm. Also, a couple of save the dates for the farm. It's a little early, but something we all look forward to. Row by Row dinner is August 21st, and the Sunflower Festival is October 2nd and 3rd. We hope that both of those will be back to normal type of events without the restrictions we all experienced last year. Lastly, the service department, Brendan Asbrock's has assumed the role of foreman for the service department. Tandem truck, the dump truck, we're waiting on. The cabin chassis have been completed, and we're just waiting for some of the final parts to be added. Unfortunately, it will not be ready for this winter and this snow. Through the valley, as I've mentioned in past months, that project is now shut down for the winter. People may have seen that some of the lanes are now being marked off across the new bridge. That is for the decorative railings that are going up, as well as the beginning of the construction of the new towers, which are on each corner of the bridge. The pipeline, the contractor has been selected for the project, and they're going to start work in March. This is something that we have known for a while that's coming. Nobody's looking forward to it. It's going to be a big disruption. They're going to start working in March, and they start working on the entire project in March. They're going to start in Evendale approximately June 1st after school lets out. So they're going to try to do this over the summer, so we can all expect a little bit of disruption or a lot of disruption in parts on Glendale Milford throughout the summer.
I might add that one of our service department employees, Tim Hammonds, was injured last week, got hit in the eye by a piece of wood or something that went through the air, and he had surgery of the eye around that, and he's over in the hospital as we speak. Since James is not here tonight, I just thought I might add that to your report, and we're hoping that he's okay.
Mayor, I talked to him today. He's doing better.
Very good, very good, very good. I'm concerned about it.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay, any additions or questions, comments? If not, police and fire. Councilperson?
Okay, I'm going to start first with our COVID update. As of January, we had 32 active cases. 32 active cases, or 51 active cases. Can you tell me which one? 51 in the month of January, which was the highest we had ever had. And unfortunately, I was actually part of the 51. So everybody wants to stay away from this because it takes a while to get back on your feet. Numbers are appearing to drop, and hopefully that holds after all the Super Bowl parties. It looks like vaccine supplies are going to be increasing. We have been selected as a site for the Hamilton County Public Health to deliver vaccines that was supposed to be today has been postponed to Friday. I'm saying that so that just everyone is aware, but you can't just show up and get it. You had to have already been designated as coming to the site to get it. And it was postponed, obviously, due to the snow emergency. Um, From a personnel perspective, we knew this was coming, so no one panicked. We've been talking about the police department, but the fire department is going to have a number of retirements in the next 5 years, and it's also going to hit our officers. So we're going to be intensely doing, or we should say the chief is going to be doing and will be supporting our succession planning activities. Then moving on to the police, Lieutenant McDaniels will be retiring in mid-March because, but we're going to honor him at the April council meeting because that's when we'll be meeting in person. And while we had a list that we could hire from when we went through our last round of hiring, people may not be available to us, so we may have to start the process again later, but we'll know more later about that. Cultural arts, stage construction has begun at the Arts Pavilion, and Call to Artists, the Fine Arts exhibit went out last week, and I think that's, and we're looking for funding to try to get elevator for the Cultural Arts Center, working with different groups to see who aligns with how we are doing our cultural arts programming and see if we can come up with a match. I think we got $100,000 from the state. We had hoped to get more, but we're now pursuing other alternative grants to try to do that. From a planning, building, and zoning perspective, in a few months, or I don't think it'll be next month, maybe April, we're going to bring some ordinances. They're more or less, Andrew has been looking at our what we collect in fees and different things. We have some anomalies in the code. He's going to try to straighten those out. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be talking about that as a committee again next month. And then I think it is going to come to council in April or May. And then I would encourage, he did a annual report for the building department. And I think it's a very, very informative as to everything that has happened. So it's out there on the Google Drive. So if you take a look at that, I think you'll get some really good information about what transpired in the building department over 2020. And I think that's all.
Any questions, comments? All right. Bring me to the mayor's report. First of all, I attended the ICRC meeting this month, the winter meeting. And because of the two communities have opted out of ICRC, Sims Township and Columbia Township, that means their fee structure has to be changed a little bit. In addition to that, they have some additional costs by the fact that they're providing more of these type of Zoom meetings online and so forth. And as a result, the fees are going to go up by about 2% so that they can balance their budget this time around. As was mentioned, the Duke Pipeline hearing before the Ohio Supreme Court is on the 31st of this month. You can get it online if you want to watch it. It will begin around 10 o'clock or 10:30 p.m. or a.m. It's the fourth item on the calendar, I think. And so they judge by each of them get a half an hour or something like that. And so they'll get to that part of the discussion about, I'd say get online 10 o'clock or 10:15.
Mayor, what was the date on that again?
March 31st.
March 31st.
March 31st.
Most often it's 15 minutes each, I think. So that makes it half hour. So that gets you, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, was it the clerk, David, or was, somebody informed us to be about 10:15, 10:30 when our case came up.
Usually they take a break halfway through.
Yeah. So get online if you want to watch the proceedings. Snowman adventure is on right now. And also, the council meeting in March is going to be online. And Barb has a few, I guess, advertisements about that you might want to alert council to, as to some things we're going to do in advance.
So we just want to make sure that it all runs smoothly, and so when you're going to receive an invitation, we keep training. The training's not regular, but we have to make sure that your surface is working, or whatever device you're using is working correctly. One will be February 18th at 10 a.m., and the second one will be February 25th at 6 p.m. So just pick one of those, and it will be, you'll get an email and inviting you to it, and you can turn it all on. I guess in the past, some people haven't, if they have to use Zoom for a while, but it's been updated, it's been updated. So when we do go live for our work meetings, we'll have something like this.
Anybody have any questions on that? Clear?
And I have to say, if you're using your Surface, make sure that your password is not about to expire, because you have to be down here to change password. So,
Good point. Good point.
now before you go to board, you may want to change your password.
Mine's not due. Okay, that covers that. Anybody have any questions or comments on what came up? Okay, let's go to our ordinances and resolutions. The first ordinance is 21-05. This is for a first reading only, and I ask to read it by title only.
So moved. Yes.
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 An ordinance amending the official zoning map of the village of Evendale to change the IF2 Industrial Flex 2 zoning to a PUD-ID Innovation District, PUD zoning designation on parcel 611-0050-0066 and declaring it as an emergency. This is the QTC building that's over on the property to the south of Glendale Milford Road on Arrow Hub 1.
Mayor, can we have a bit of discussion?
Sure.
One of the things that I'm sure the developer, the owner is going to claim is what is a reasonable use of the building, because you have to have that for zoning. And we're going into the post-COVID era. And I'm just wondering if maybe it would either through the CIC or otherwise to at least review what people are saying the post-COVID office and work life will be, because a lot of people are working from home. For instance, I can give you is my son's firm he's working for now doesn't have an office, period. They don't have an office. If they got to get together, they go to a bar. He's an architect. That's what, he's an architect, but they
You
work.
can see his building.
Well, that's what they do. And the firm he used to work for is giving up their office space. They're going to keep their, the current plan is to keep their HR and finance places in their headquarters out of Minneapolis, and they're not going to have an office here. And the people who live here will be working from home, and these are architects. They do design work and that sort of thing. And it just may be what we ought to do before we jump into rezoning something. And if litigation results from this change that has sometimes been threatened or not threatened, we need the background material to find out what the workplace is going to look like in the future. And because there's a tremendous number of people working from home that I run into have moved out of New York City, but they still are working for a firm in New York, and they can work anywhere. And it just that's what's going on. You can read articles about it. I got one that's that I pulled up on my phone. It's from it just went away, but it's from an outfit called the McKinsey Company. It says reimagining the office and work life after COVID-19. And it's just something that I think that we should be looking into before we're changing zoning around to make sure that Arrow Hub is getting something that is going to have employees that are going to be making money, as opposed to having a bunch of work from home people who may not be subject to our taxes at some point, because the whole point of Arrow Hub was to increase our tax base. So,
Well, I think everybody is kind of wrestling with the thought of what the office space is going to look like after COVID. And I read articles, some say, oh, we're going to bring people back. We're going to bring them back into the office. Some companies have already said that. You got to come back 3 days a week to work in the office, and then you can work 2 days at home. I don't think there's really an answer to that question as yet. But the point is, this is part of the Arrow Hub complex. And if we don't rezone it, then it stands out.
well, it's what I said last time was spot zoning when we didn't do it.
Well,
But I think what we need to do is make sure the uses in Arrow Hub are consistent with something, at least what people are saying is going to happen. That there's, it just, you don't want to zone something and then have it show up and not be something that's usable. I'll send the article I got on my phone to Dave, and he can look at it. And there's a bunch of them I've read out there about what the workplace is going to look like. And what they used to say about the military, and really in Evendale, we need people on the ground. We need something that brings people on the ground. We don't need things that aren't going to have people here. And that's just my thinking on this. And so if nobody else agrees, that's fine. But I will send Dave this McKinsey article, and I'm sure you can find 100 other ones talking about job satisfaction, productivity, and so forth of people working from home.
I get your point. The only thing I think in this particular, as it relates to this ordinance, I think you're talking about Arrow Hub in general and not specifically this particular thing. I think it is a broader issue, and I would think that it would be more effective for all the zoning to be consistent, and then we evaluate the environment and make changes versus have two things there right now. That's just how I.
Yeah, I agree that the zoning should be consistent, but what I'm saying is if we're talking about zoning now, and especially if you go into litigation, you're going to have a background as to why this is a reasonable use of this person's property or this company's property. And because the zoning it doesn't provide a reasonable use is invalid. It's not. And so that not only do we look at Arrow Hub as a whole, but we look to see that we have some backup material to say that this change in zoning of somebody else's property is appropriate. And that you would get that with having some kind of study or whatever. You could get the backup material to say this is a reasonable use of the property. And that's really what, if they would litigate it, you're going to have to get that anyway.
Well, I think we can. This is the first reading,
right?
So I think we can take a
months,
look at
but to do it,
I just think that we ought to position.
Well, GE has part of it, Yeah, and so is AeroHub. And, we have one business that sought us out. It's a manufacturing business. But other than that, AeroHub, we've been started that six or 7 years ago, and it's sitting empty.
Well, it's not a subject that the CIC has not spent a lot of time on and will continue to spend time. And that's why we're having the first reading tonight, is to give that and the owners time to come in and talk to us and this, that, and the next thing. That's exactly why we're doing it. I understand your point, but that's why we're doing it. First reading tonight. Okay, next is ordinance 21-06, and I ask for permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 An ordinance authorizing the payment of amounts due upon certain contracts requiring certification of availability of funds and declaring it as an emergency. I need a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 And I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 I now declare ordinance 21-06 adopted as an emergency. Next, we have ordinance 21-07. I need a motion to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 An ordinance approving a transfer from the contingency fund to the building maintenance department and declaring it as an emergency. I need a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance. This is adopting or transferring the money for the wall in front of the pavilion, which is collapsing.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 I now declare ordinance 21-07 adopted as an emergency. Next is ordinance 21-08. And we have to read the entire ordinance because it was not put on the agenda in time for the appropriate time to lay over 24 hours in the situation. So I will read the ordinance in its entirety. This is ordinance, Village of Evendale, Ohio, ordinance 2106, an ordinance authorizing the payment of amounts due upon certain contracts requiring, no, that's not it.
You got to go back to 2108.
No, 2108 is the next one. No, it's
That's
not.
what we're doing.
That's right. An ordinance of, Village of Evendale, Ohio, ordinance 2108, an ordinance approving an additional appropriation in the capital funds for the I-75 Tower project and declaring it as an emergency. Whereas pursuant to legislation properly adopted by the Council of Village of Evendale, certain expenditures will take place that need to be appropriately reflected as appropriations. And whereas the contractor is requiring additional funds due to a delay claim, requirements for additional and upgraded equipment, as well as for winter work measures not identified in the initial bid specs. And whereas funds are available in the capital fund now, therefore, be it obtained by the council of the Village of Evendale, State of Ohio, blank members are concurring that Section 1, the following sums are appropriated from the unappropriated capital fund, parentheses 400, close parentheses, to the following line item: 400-701-525-200 capital improvements, $280,000. Section 2, the ordinance is declared to be an emergency by concurrence of blank members of council, being necessary to preserve the peace, order, safety, health, and welfare of the Village of Evendale, or to provide for the daily operations of a department or office of the Village of Evendale. It is necessary that this measure be put into effect immediately because the public welfare and daily operations of the village require that the line items within special revenue fund budgets not exceed the appropriation amounts approved by council, and it is in the public interest for the village to complete the I-75 Tower project within the time available for the ODOT schedule. The ordinance shall be effective upon passage. I need a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes,
I thought the number when we talked last week was,
can you
I'm sorry, was
grab the
I
microphone?
thought the number was 200,000, not
So
280,000.
did I. But it comes out to $180,000. $280,000.
Mayor, I'd like to maybe either Mr. Burke or James can elaborate, but I'm looking at this as I was reviewing this when we got it this afternoon. And there are a lot of line items that just, continue to tick up. And I question the propriety of some of them, whether they are all, whether it's in the contract. I didn't get a chance to look back at the contract to reference it, but either in the contract that we're obligated to pay every one of these claims, either under contract or under statute on the delay of the project. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at it in that light, but it just seems like they just are throwing everything at us and just adding it, whatever they think they can, ask for, they're asking for, and now we're ready to approve it. I want to make sure that, or at least my comfort level, that we have thoroughly reviewed this and that we are truly obligated to pay this, and not just responding by cutting a check.
Well, if you remember, I asked Mr. Jeffers to inquire, to go over it again, and with the contractor, and see whether there was any possibility of what you're talking about, kind of things to be deducted from it. And he indicates that that is not the case, but that's why I have him on the phone tonight. He is declared he's COVID positive now and cannot attend the meeting, but he's on the phone. Mr. Jeffers, you want to respond?
Yes, sir. Remember back when we bid this back in 2019, there was a number of months necessary to construct the structural steel, precast, and some of the other items. At that time that we bid the project, the anticipation that this project will get started somewhere around June 1st, midsummer. Unfortunately, due to continued delays of the ODOT project with their contractors, there was not the window of opportunity that we wouldn't create the liquidated damage or affect the liquidated damages that would be imposed upon the ODOT contractor. And as we are operating under an ODOT permit as work next to the interstate, we were somewhat obligated to work to their schedule. Again, the schedule, we thought we would have that window in June is the way it was initially laid out. As things continue to change and progress, we anticipated then getting started in October. And unfortunately, Jurgensen still has not gotten finished, as they are now even potentially into May of finishing their work. So the opportunity is we had to try and get done in between that window of when they did their winter shutdown to the spring work. And so this is the window that we went to. Unfortunately, I mean, in this case, this is not the materials. A lot of these have been made, they're stored. And as such, now they're going to be doing construction at a different time frame than they anticipated, as well as we need a few larger pieces of equipment now due to some of the signals and other things that are constructed that weren't anticipated at the time. And so those were the numbers as you continue to delay for storage of their materials for the additional upgrades, and then the delay claims that they're requesting for being pushed back in the schedule from June to October to now February.
And I believe the original contract that Jorgensen had with ODOT was to be done by the 1st of October. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
And so the state gave the additional time and Jorgensen didn't finish. And we got caught in the barrel, so to speak.
Yeah, I understand that we got caught. I'm just looking at more of the line items in each of these expenses. I mean, superintendent, $32,700 additional. I mean, you just looking at some of these numbers in these line items, and I guess I just want to make sure that those have all been properly scrutinized. I assume they have. I just wanted to hear it for my own comfort that we've looked at all of these line items and that they are indeed appropriate. I don't question the fact that we have to pay the delay claim. It's just $280,000 is an awful lot. And I just want to make sure that we looked at each of these line items and make sure that they are appropriate, that, we're obligated under, like I said, either contract or statute to pay them.
I've asked, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Jeffers, I ask you, and I presume you have, checked with the contractor on all of the items, and they're all legitimate.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Just had to ask. I mean, it's just an
I
awful
know.
lot.
I'm not happy about it
Yeah.
either. It really frustrates me.
We have to pay it.
Really frustrating. But
Is there a lost opportunity claim in that list? I didn't see one, but the normal litigation involving public works contracts or contracts of this sort, sometimes they throw in a lost opportunity claim. James, is there an?
No, sir, there's not that. That's not requested anywhere in this.
Okay,
yeah,
so-
I looked for that too, and I did not see it.
because that's always the kicker, is they had to put off other work.
Right, sure.
Because of,
Right.
Right.
No, they did not ask for that at all.
All right.
So the question is,
Thank you,
I need a
James.
motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Okay.
Yes.
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 No,
Yes.
yes,
I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 yes,
Yes.
no,
I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
second,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I now declare ordinance 21-08 adopted as an emergency. Next is ordinance 2109. And we will read the entire ordinance because this was a late comer to the picnic as well. If I can find it. There it is. Village of Evendale, Ohio, ordinance 21-09, or ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Bear Becker for professional services and declaring it as an emergency. Whereas from time to time, the Village of Evendale needs outside engineering and related professional services. And whereas the village has received a grant from Jobs Ohio Site Ready program. And whereas Bear Becker has provided services related to Arrow Hub and such services are needed for said project. And whereas Bear Becker has provided a contract which the village staff and the mayor have recommended for these services. Now therefore, be it therefore ordained by the council of the Village of Evendale, state of Ohio, blank number of mayors concurring that section 1, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Bear Becker substantially in the form attached hereto and incorporated by reference herein. Section 2, the ordinance is declared to be an emergency measure by the concurrence of blank members of council, it being found to be necessary to preserve the peace, the public peace, order, safety, and health and welfare of the Village of Evendale, or to provide for the daily operation of a department or office of the Village of Evendale. It is necessary that this measure be put into immediate effect because the public welfare requires that the continued need for engineering services to prepare the plans necessary to get site ready for development. This ordinance shall be effective upon passage. And this is to prepare the drawings for the Arrow Hub site that basically is the grading, leveling, and so forth and so on that we need to do over there for our to get it ready to be pad ready for appropriate businesses to take the site. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes, I guess. It doesn't make any sense to me that we're preparing a site for somebody we don't know who's coming. Well, okay. But the state's paying for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, the state's paying for it.
Okay. Did we take the roll for everybody? Okay. Now I'd like a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 I now declare ordinance 21-09 adopted as an emergency. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Is there any additional discussion?
I don't understand how you can get a site ready for somebody who you don't know who's coming. It just, to me, the state gave us the money, but that's all fine and good. But you don't know how many, what the building's going to look like. It seems like we get everything torn up or they're in flat, and maybe we don't need to do that depending on who the user is.
Well, the
State's
state,
paying for it.
well, the state flat tells you gotta have them pad ready.
Okay, well,
Gotta have them pad ready. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
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 Adjourn.